What's up, you guys? My name is Alex Hampton. Today, I will be doing my reaction slash my thoughts on the whole Will Smith apology. Normally, I would have Ian and Jeremy here. This is not the Ask Alex show, but normally I would have them here just to create content with. But I do have Jeremy here with me to share his thoughts about the whole thing as well. Jeremy, how are you doing today?
3 months in the making, dude. 3 months in the making. We've been waiting for this video to come out. As many of you remember, during the Oscars ceremony, Will Smith had a little altercation with one of the world's greatest comics. Maybe my favorite comic, Chris Rock, made a joke in regards to Jada Pinkett's alopecia. And you guys know the story, but I was just setting it up a little bit. Will Smith approaches the stage, slaps Chris Rock. There was a moment of confusion where the entire world is like, is that a bit? What's going on here? Was that for real? And lo and behold, it was real. And for months, Will Smith was very quiet about it. Yesterday, at time of recording this video, he actually finally released a Q&A situation where he went live and he took questions from, did he go live or did he just answer the questions?
No, it was definitely pre-recorded, but he just answered the questions because the way he released the video looked like he was on a sound stage or a set because it was professionally edited. So
yeah. And so I've got the quotes here in front of me, but basically somebody asked him why he didn't apologize to Rock on Oscars night when he accepted an award for his performance in King Richard. He said he was fogged out by that point. It's all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk. When he is, he'll reach out. I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk. I want to apologize to Chris's mother. I saw an interview, and that was one of the things I just didn't realize. I wasn't thinking, but how many other people got hurt in that moment. I want to apologize to Chris's mother. I want to apologize to Chris's family, specifically Tony Rock. We had a great relationship. Tony Rock was my man. This is probably irreparable. So, well, I guess, what do you think about that so far?
What do I think? Well, let me just start off by saying I do think that he is coming from a definitely genuine place.
Okay.
You know, I think when he talked about his Chris Rock's mom's that interview, because I saw the interview too. You know, mothers, man, they have a way of making you feel like, you know, when a mother makes you feel like what you just did was so bad, I'm disappointed.
Yeah, like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Exactly. Like, you know, and I don't know Chris Rock, but like Chris Rock's mom, she felt like my mom when she was talking about how she felt about what happened to her son. And in that moment, I felt like Will must feel like garbage. But to answer your question, I think that Will has already taken a lot more heat than we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And when he said what he said in regards to Chris Rock's mom, I really felt his pain. Now, I want to point out that, you know, I said this on social media. He's a human. He's not Superman. He's also a really good actor. So all of this stuff could be, you know, it could be, you know, premeditate is not the right word, but this all could be an act, but I don't feel that that's where he's coming from. But it's also with Tony Rock. It is true what he says. They were close friends because they did a show together, I believe, called All of Us or something like that. Where
I did not know that.
Yeah, they did a show together where Will was the executive producer of that show, and he was also a cast member of that show, and Will was on that show, and you know, obviously it got canceled because it was on UPN, and they were close after the fact. And I don't know if you saw Chris Rock's response, maybe I think a few days later, not Chris Rock, sorry, Tony Rock's response after the slap.
Tony went hard, bro. Tony was the one that was the most vocal about it. He went on stage and talked about it, while Chris was pretty much remaining silent on the whole thing. You could tell that it made Tony feel some type of way. Yes.
Yeah.
And justifiably so, but I had no idea they had that history. So that kind of changes my perspective on it. And I agree with what you said, man. You make a very good point. Is like, we don't know the amount of suffering that this has caused Will Smith since it happened.
Right.
I don't know that I wouldn't say it probably in many ways has caused more pain to Will Smith, who inflicted the pain on Chris Rock originally, than it caused Chris Rock, because, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like nobody was shitting. I don't want to say nobody. Most people were not shitting on Chris Rock. Most people took Chris Rock's side, and Will Smith ended up being the one that looked like he was out of line.
Yeah. So I remember I think it was the next day I did a video with Ian, and we were just like, I remember seeing the hashtag. It was like Team Chris and Team Will and all this other shit. But Will, I saw an abundance of memes and videos of what happened at the Oscar night. And to your point, I didn't really see anyone go after Chris other than certain people was like, oh, he shouldn't make jokes about Black women in their hair and all this other stuff. I did see that.
You're right.
I didn't see that as much as I saw the heat for Will. But my take on it is that my take on the whole Oscars thing in general, how they brought up with Jada and all this other stuff. First, let me say this. Yes, they have a show called Red Table Talk, but let's be clear. We don't know everything that goes on in their marriage, regardless of whatever they said on Red Table Talk. Red Table Talk is a show. They say what they want us to hear, or they give us just enough information for us to give our own opinions, but we don't live with these people day to day. So I don't know what their marriage is. I don't know what their relationship is. If they want to have a bit for bit reality show where every single moment is being recorded, then maybe we would have some legitimate opinions about their relationship. But at the end of the day, I don't know, and I don't think it's fair to put all the blame on Jada because she may or may not felt some type of way about the joke that was being said. But getting to Oscar night, I never believed that Chris Rock said anything that warrant a slap. It wasn't even a funny joke. It was just a joke in comparison to G.I. Jane, one of the most beautiful, badass women in movie history. So I didn't really feel like he said anything that warranted a slap. But when Will slapped him, and Will said it in the video that, there are certain people that I've let down, I did kind of feel let down because this is the Fresh Prince. This is someone that, I have a picture of on my wall, what I mean? Like this is a guy who's definitely influenced the way we create content. We were talking about music off camera. I make music, you make music. And I'm sure he's been influential in some way, shape, or form in the way that we interpret or view music in some way, shape, or form. So for me, Will even says in the apology video that, hey, I know that I'm wrong, and I know that sorry doesn't necessarily fix it, but I think that I'm showing you how remorseful I am, and if you essentially walk with me on this journey, just paraphrasing, walk with me on this journey, we'll be friends again. And I feel like we're in a place in society now, there's not really much you can say to, like, when you do something like that, when you make an ass out of yourself, there's not really much you can say to really save you. But that path of redemption looks different for everybody,
That's a good point.
I will say, after watching the video, I watched it like 3 times. Will doesn't seem like he's acting. He does seem very remorseful. And like I said, this man is human. And a lot of people don't probably feel bad for him because they see the money and the status and all this other stuff. Listen, I think I'm glad I'm not rich. I'm glad I'm taken care of, but I'm glad I'm not rich because I can only imagine what a man like me with that kind of fame and status, what I would be allowed to do and not really having anyone hold me accountable. That's why I'm glad we have communities like me, you, and Ian. Because like if something happens, we always check on one another.
Yeah.
And I don't feel as though Will really has that in his life. And then again, I don't know. I don't want to judge his livelihood, but I don't believe, or I don't know if there's someone saying, hey man, I'm just checking on you. Are you okay? Because that's very important. Like I said, with me and you guys, we check on each other and make sure, hey, if you say something online, I'm going to ask you like, bro, are you good? Do we need to have a phone call? So, but I didn't want to ask you after watching that video and getting your whole take on everything, aside from all the points that you have already made, what did you come out of the video after you I heard everything that he had to say.
Two answers here. First of all, you have changed my perception and humanized it in a way that I probably wouldn't have considered as much. My immediate reaction is usually to go for the joke, go for the lowest hanging fruit. You know, when it comes to Jada, we collectively, I think, have put a lot of blame on her.
Jada. Yes.
And
yes.
can we as a society blame one person for the actions of another? Has Jada groomed Will over the last 20 years to make him act in a way that was unbecoming of him? So my initial reaction was, bro, you had 3 months to get introspective and to decide what it was that motivated you. And maybe you don't understand it yourself. Maybe Will Smith has sat there for 3 months and been like, man, why did I do that? What was I hoping to gain out of that? And to that, I will say, pride is a motherfucker.
Yes, it is.
It will make men act in strange ways. And I believe that, you know, ego and insecurity are very inextricably linked. And there was a history with Will and Chris Rock, or specifically with Jada and Chris Rock.
Yeah.
I think in the moment, Will misinterpreted what Chris Rock said, which was like, it was a joke that was also wrapped in what could be perceived as a compliment. So like,
right.
He was still picking on her, but also doing it in a way that kind of, I thought, lifted her up, or almost like was a good comparison to make. So this wasn't the time that Will Smith should have slapped Chris. If all the jokes that Chris made, I don't think this was the one that earned that kind of reaction. So when I watched the video, my immediate thought was, you should have been a little bit more introspective and said, maybe I did it because of this, instead of it all got fuzzy, I don't know, it's out of my hands. And that might be the truth, but it doesn't give us any real insight as to what would make him behave that way. So yeah, twofold. First of all, I think you made really good points and humanized it, and it does kind of cause me to look at it a little bit differently. And then also, I felt that he could have been a little more concise and said more with the words that he used. Dude, do you think that the Black Twitter and maybe the Black community in general reacted differently, and that my perception of it is skewed because of how much media and entertainment is through the scope of whiteness?
Yeah, I would say yes. And anybody watching this video, let me unpack what Jeremy just asked me, because what you asked is a very important question, because I told Jeremy there were people in my community who felt like Will was justified in standing up for his woman, because Chris made a very tasteless joke about a woman and her hair and her struggle with alopecia. Mind you, I didn't even know alopecia was a thing until Oscar night. So I want to throw that out there for, and if I seem ignorant in saying that, I'm just being honest. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And plus, I don't watch Red Table Talk. So I wouldn't know that she struggled with this type of thing if I don't watch it. So that's one thing. And then, like I said, on the other side, there are a lot of people within our community that was like, Will, you should know better. This set us back. Here's the thing. Will Smith will always be remembered as the man who slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars the night he won an Oscar. That Oscar, and it's funny, that Oscars happened on my birthday, March 27, 2022 is the day it happened, on my birthday.
Wild.
Right before Questlove, who did an amazing documentary. That will always be remembered of the day that Will slapped Chris Rock and won an Oscar and didn't apologize for it. Now, when people see that, when my people see that, they say, see, he don't fucked it up for everybody. That's why Black people shouldn't go to Oscars. That's why it's a hard time for us to, like, it's like a lot of Black people are saying, we are already not welcome at the Oscars. Now, Will just did something even more to fuck it up, right? And then now you have a lot of other people saying, oh, well, you shouldn't disrespect Black women. Black women are most disrespected race in the world and women in the world. I'm like, I think two things can be true at the same time.
Yes.
But at the same time, we can't continue conflating things. Yes, Will did a thing that was, he basically showed his ass amongst millions of people to the point where people outside of the country saw this. They saw this more than they saw wars and all this other shit play on TV, right? He showed his ass. But Will is not a representation. It's not the sole representation of all of us.
Well said, bro.
He's not. So like with so people like with Questlove and Denzel and all these other different people who did talk to Will after Oscars, and I'm assuming after the Oscars, you know, those Black men have done great works, and they're going to continue to be great works, and they're going to be examples of what we should strive to. That's not to say Will is not someone we shouldn't strive to. He had a very human moment like we all do, and I don't think that we should judge him based upon that one moment. However, that doesn't mean that what he did is a definition amongst us. Now, going to the other side of Chris Rock, I will agree that yes, Black women, especially dark-skinned Black women, have been disrespected and been hurt and been said a lot of bad things have happened to them over the course of years. They're heavily sexualized, and they are very they really get criticized about their hair. Yes. But Chris Rock is a comedian. If we're going to hold Chris Rock to a certain standard, then I think that we need to hold everybody to that same standard. We can't laugh when Dave Chappelle does it and then criticize Chris Rock when he does it. You know, that's my thing. And my thing is that he didn't call Jada a bitch. He didn't call her a hoe. He didn't call her a bald-headed baser. He called her G.I. Jane. And if anyone who's seen G.I. Jane, she is a badass warrior. She was the first Black Widow. Can't nobody fuck with her, right? Yeah. So it like you said in the beginning, it was a compliment, but also a joke at the same time. So for me, how I would address that crowd is say, hey, I think we're conflating a little bit these issues. Yes, he made a joke that happened to be about a Black woman, but I don't think the same energy would be directed towards any other race. And I think there's some internal issues within our community that we all have to work out amongst each other for us to say, hey, yes, these things happen, but what can we do to get past them? If we're going to constantly talk about how hurt we are as a people while we keep doing a lot of infighting, we're never going to grow, you know? So I think for me, there's something to be said on both sides, but at the end of the day, I'm not team Will or team Chris. I'm team right versus wrong. What Will did was wrong. What Chris did, you could arguably say it's wrong, but he did his job. Now, let me just point out, this is something I haven't seen anybody say on YouTube. Chris could have easily said, oh, fuck your bitch. Fuck, like after that slap, he could have went straight comedian. And you know, Jeremy's seen Chris Rock raw. I've seen him raw. Like he could have easily annihilated her on that stage.
Yep.
And he didn't. He could have called the police. He didn't. He stood there, presented the next award, and Questlove got his award, and they would have gone their merry way. And even after the fact, he's made some light digs here and there, but it's not been to the same extent of how far he could go. But I will say this to wrap, because I don't want to be long and drawn out. But what I could say is to your question, Jeremy, I think that social media like this shit right here, our phones, this shit conflates stuff, and it makes us think of us more than what we should. Like it puts us on a pedestal, and then it makes us feel really low. Yeah. And I think what Will did, I think he did take too long. 3 months is a little bit excessive for me, but I do think he should have taken that time away and reevaluated some things for himself. Same thing with Chris. He should have reevaluated some things for himself. Not anything that he said, but how he was going to like address the matter going forward. But I don't think it's fair to continuously attack Will for things that he apologized for. And he said, hey, I'm human. This is what happened. And Chris, I still believe he has the right to make a special or a huge material out of all of this. If he really wants to, that's up to him. But, you know, that's where I take that. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be so long about it. But I think that there's a serious conflict within our community where we're constantly splitting each other up and not saying, hey, we're dealing with two great icons. Instead of putting them against one another, let's do what we can to rehabilitate each other and move forward and move together, because us being at odds doesn't really help us. So
very well said, man. I co-sign all of that. I don't even want to add to it. I think that was beautiful.
Oh, thank you, man. But yeah, those are our general thoughts. Yeah, like I said, guys, before you go out trolling him, and let me just say this, because I did it too. When it first came out, I posted so many memes because they were hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. They were funny. Some of the videos that people put together within like minutes together. But I will say this. Will did put out a book called Will, and it basically is a detailed version of everything he's been through in his life. I would encourage anyone who has an audio book or has an Amazon Prime account to download and just listen to the book or read the book. He gives a very transparent and honest story about his life. And it kind of gives me a little bit more perspective of why he did what he did. It doesn't mean that what he did is right, because he's a grown man. I don't think anybody should put hands on anyone unless your life is in danger. But at the same time, I think Will is at a place now where he understands this was wrong. And there's the after effects of what he did supersede just his family. It superseded his fans, Chris Rock's family, and other people who feel some type of way. And I'm not going to say Will is the architect of it, but you know, since then we saw some things like Dave Chappelle getting tacked on stage and other people being heckled at comedy shows. DC Young Fly got almost attacked on stage once, and this was all after the Oscars. So I'm not saying Will is the architect behind that, but now when you do stuff like that, it does kind of spark people's minds. Oh, Will did that at the Oscars. Let me go to a comic club and try my luck. Like, I wouldn't advise that if you're watching this video, but you know, Tony Rock even said in his response, he said, listen, if you come up on this stage, this is not the Oscars.
Yep.
You're going to get nominated by these hands. So I wouldn't try that if I were you, but yeah, Jeremy, I'm glad to have you on the show. Do you have any final thoughts before we close out?
No, man. Again, I echo a lot of what you said. I think that answered the question really well. That's kind of the insight that I was after, because I do believe that if, I don't know, if Joaquin Phoenix went up on stage and slapped Ricky Gervais over a joke, we'd all still be talking about it. We'd all still be, you know, clowning and making memes and all of that kind of stuff. But nobody would ever say, look, this is how the white community acts. It would never be a reflection of our race. It would never speak to, and I think that that's a challenging thing that the Black community is always involved with, is that if one person acts some type of way, it represents the entire group. It all of a sudden gets conflated. And I think you talked about a lot of that stuff really well.
Thank you, bro. But yeah, man, but I'm glad I had you on the panel today. Where can we find you on YouTube and social media?
So I just now realized it says movies are terrible down there in the corner, but you can check me out on the Pop Culture Nihilist on YouTube. I do a live stream every Thursday at 6 p.m. CST. Would love to see you over there.
Awesome. And you know where to find us, guys, here at Momentum Media. Just type in Momentum Media on YouTube. I am the first YouTube channel that pops up when you type that in. Subscribe to all our YouTube, subscribe to all of our content, and follow me on social media. I have the links below of both of our channels and our social medias. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And as always, you guys have a blessed day.